This is Kayfabe and Cardboard, where storylines meet scarcity. I'm Aiden, and this is my dad, Adam. Today, we're going to be breaking down why what happens in the ring doesn't just shape the storylines, it actually shapes the card market. So, this is going to be our first podcast episode. You might know me from CLE Wrestling Cards and my dad from CLE Soccer Cards as Instagram our Instagram accounts online. Alrighty, so we're gonna hop right into it by kind of introducing ourselves if you don't know us already. So first, how are you doing today, Em?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. After this, we're gonna hop on and watch a little bit of AEW. Good main event, Kenny Omega versus Swerve Strickland. So I'm excited for that. But first, I gotta ask you, what do you think your first wrestling memory would have to be?
That's a great question. I think the first thing I can remember, growing up, wrestling was a big part. I'm actually 50 years old, just turned 50. So I had one memory that sticks out as a little kid. We didn't grow up with a lot of means. So when we got a chance to go to a WWF at the time wrestling match, we were always in like the top row of the back of the Coliseum, the Richfield Coliseum in Cleveland. One time, I think the one I remember most is Hulk Hogan versus Randy Macho Man Savage. And we were so far up top. I mean, just layers and layers. You could barely see the screen and the ring. But I just remember it was a fun match. And then Hulk Hogan stole Miss Elizabeth, uh, put her over his shoulder, and then ran out. And then a few minutes later, when the match and the card ended, I remember some little kid, I must have been, I don't know, 8 or 9 or 10 years old, kid runs up like all the way up to the top where his family was sitting and had a little piece of the yellow t-shirt from Hulk Hogan that he ran down to the ring, somehow snuck his way down there. He ripped his shirt off, grabbed this little piece of yellow material. I was like, I got Hulk Hogan's shirt. And I was so jealous as a 10-year-old, like how that kid got that shirt. So I think that was my first actual memory of actually going to WWF at the time, now WWE, and watching a Hulk Hogan Macho Man Savage match.
Yeah, that's super, super cool. I know I was talking to your dad, who would be my grandpa, a couple days ago, and he was telling me stories of how he was just sitting in bars, grabbing drinks with Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan. And he was just saying that Andre could just keep going on and on and on because he had so much tolerance for alcohol content. Alrighty, next I'm gonna ask you. I know we talked about the golden era, but a big part of your childhood was the Monday Night Wars, obviously, and WCW versus WWF at the time, which led into the Attitude Era, the birth of Stone Cold, The Rock, Mick Foley, so many of the stars and legends that we consider. So, what do you feel like that time was for wrestling, and how do you think it impacts today's world?
I think, it was a different time back then, me growing up as a teenager and then, young adult through those ages, being a little bit rebellious myself and just thinking, how cool is this? The Attitude Era, Degenerate Acts and everything like that. They could just do whatever they wanted. It was just a very rebellious time. On the edge of our X-rated fun stuff as a young boy growing up was really, really fun. I think it just set the tone for development of characters and just the whole it sold tickets, and it made money because it related to those young and up and coming, mainly male audience at that time. It was just a rebellious and just an awesome time to get hooked into wrestling.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, what many of today's wrestling fans, they got back into it because of how popular it was, but their first initial inducement into wrestling stemmed from the Attitude Era. So I totally agree with you there. Alrighty, so next we're going to talk about how most people know you as Sealy Soccer Cards, obviously, and mostly your soccer background. When and why did we both pivot into wrestling cards?
Well, again, as a kid, I grew up collecting everything: basketball, football, baseball. Mainly got into soccer. Both of us, I grew up playing soccer and then now coach your high school team and coach you growing up. And um, my daughter Sage, it was just kind of got back into it pre-COVID. And then as something to do, ripping cards, I would really like to share it with you, got you into cards, and then really got into soccer cards when I realized the scarcity of them, the limited number of sets that were made pre-COVID. We're talking 2017, 18, 19 was really got back into it. And then the value of it versus the demand, and knowing that demand would come and the scarcity of the actual product. And then obviously doing Panini, Upper Deck, Tops, they would catch up to it. When you got back into wrestling, and then obviously last year we took you for your 16th birthday to WrestleMania, and I think that kind of cemented for me, like, oh my God, this is just a up and coming collectible space. And so we really got into, The Rock and then Cena and then some of these other ones. There's not that many high-end cards. I try to get a little bit more in the high end, just from I've gravitated to, and there's not much to choose from real quality. So I think that's really important. And then I see also just what happened with the licensing with Panini, and then them knowing they're losing their license and put on all these flawless, impeccable Prism, only 3 years of Prism, a couple years of impeccable, 1 year of flawless. I'm like, oh my God, that's kind of like how it was in soccer, 1 year of flawless. And those cards just skyrocketed, and I feel like it's starting to happen. And obviously what Topps is doing with it, with the license and what they're gonna open it up to, and how they're really putting a focus on that IP, I just think it's gonna be a huge influx of new fans, and then a huge influx to, for me, like the GOATs and the limited number of high-end cards. I think those cards are just they're so cheap compared to, basketball, baseball, football. And now, as you can see, the Messi market, the Ronaldo market, those have skyrocketed, multi-million-dollar sales. I just feel like the Rocks, the Cenas, Stone Cold, Roman, those are going to start to go that way. They just haven't yet, and I feel like they ultimately will.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think we both view like John Cena and The Rock coming out of wrestling and into Hollywood, into different things. They're the two biggest superstars that if you were to ask me, oh, what's WWE? Oh, I know The Rock. Oh, I know John Cena. That's a recognizable name. So people coming, let's say, out of the space to an up and growing market as an investment opportunity, I think John Cena and The Rock definitely make the most sense because they're the two most recognizable names. Okay, next we're going to go on to our main topic segment. So every week we're going to have a different idea that we're going to spend a good chunk of the podcast talking about. So this segment's title for this week is going to be called Storylines That Change the Market. So we're going to be looking at how storylines inside the ring affected the markets outside of the ring. So first, we're going to be talking about Cody Rhodes' momentum and his card spikes, WrestleMania 39 and WrestleMania 40, with him finishing the story and all the buzz that it generated. So first, I'm going to ask you, do you think an influx of wrestling fans came from Cody Rhodes, The Rock, that whole story that they told WrestleMania 40? Do you think that it has to credit to the fact that there's so many wrestling fans back in the space now?
I think that's part of it. I definitely think it helps. I think Cody Rhodes reinventing himself, obviously with his dad. I knew his dad, dad's back in the day, and then now seeing how he's changed, him and his brother, but then he changed and turned into the Cody Rhodes most people watching this podcast know now. But I think there's a perfect timing for him with the way coming back to WWE, and then the way they presented himself as a character, he presented himself, I think, really matured. And I think it was perfect timing with the last couple of years of the Prism, and then really getting into Tops, talking about the cards part of it, the higher end cards, him being kind of, I don't say tail end of like, hey, he's a big superstar now, when The Rock's not out there wrestling very much. Then Cody Rhodes is really every single week. You see him all the time, have access. You go to Fanatics Fest, he's there, and he's just a great personality and a great ambassador for the sport. And I think that kind of leads into people wanting to collect them, from little kids all the way to adults.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I know SummerSlam in 2024 was obviously in Cleveland, where we live. We're both from Solon, Ohio, which is like a suburb outside of Cleveland. And when it was there, we volunteered for this food bank. That other WWE superstars were there. We met Omos, Drew McIntyre, Chelsea Green, Bailey. The Miz came out, and then once Cody Rhodes' music hits, everybody put their stuff down and went to Joe try and get a picture. And I was actually lucky enough to get a picture with him, which was super cool. He tried to meet and greet as many and everybody who was there, the food bank employees, the volunteers, everybody. It was super nice. I think his personality on screen definitely translates off of screen. I think that also goes with his card spikes, because obviously if you're not that same type of personality that on screen, off screen, there could be some card dips. So I mean, it could relate, it could not. Obviously, that Cody Rhodes, he's just a superstar, superstar. I think the WrestleMania 39 and 40 really cemented him as the company's top guy. Even now, to this day, I don't think he needed to get in that Elimination Chamber qualifying match that we'll talk about later. I don't think he needed to get in the Elimination Chamber, but he did because the company's trying to pivot him on his story where he needs to win this match, needs to win this match, needs to win this match. Drew McIntyre is going to keep trying to screw him because they position himself as the top babyface of the company. Next, we're going to go into Rhea Ripley and her main event elevation from NXT. What are your opinions on the female market, and more specifically Rhea Ripley, who's obviously at the top of that market?
Well, I think just for me seeing what started off of the Keebler, Sable, even the OG when the Nitro Girls, all that was more eye candy than wrestling. And now it's really turned into uh, showcasing their skills, showcasing their characters, showcasing them as actually wrestlers on an even par with the men, which is amazing. Um, I think Rhea Ripley is a perfect example of why I think WWE's done a really nice job with the NXT brand, all the way up to their main card with SmackDown, and both sides of it, Raw, of like she was able to develop a character, evolutions of characters, develop fan bases, work on mic skills, work on skill, in ring skills, and then by the time she's getting into main events and onto main cards, she's not going to get buried. She actually is able to handle it and able to handle the fame, and she's just absolutely ran with it and broke through. It's just awesome to see. She's amazing, and obviously her cards and her PC, all the different high-end collectors and low-end collectors and every collector into PCs. Rhea is just awesome because she's got a market and she's cemented herself in the card market as well as obviously in the ring.
Yeah, I think what they do in NXT, like you said, giving people 1 or 2 extra years of development. I would like to point out Trick Williams. I mean, he was just a babyface, led the brand, and then they made a great decision turning him heel and then leading into Trick and A, which gave him more character development. They need him as a heel on the main roster. There's too many baby faces that he wouldn't stick out. He wouldn't be a main event guy, but as a heel, he has that aura. He has that crowd connection. He has that big whoop that trick chant. He can get over in 2 seconds, which he already has done, and he's cemented himself into a main event program already. That extra time in NXT, I think, is really paying dividends for many superstars. I think Ethan Page, when he gets called up, he's already more main roster ready than half the roster, in my opinion. I also think Blake Monroe, once they get her doing more stuff, possibly an NXT Women's Championship run, maybe playing more into the face role, a little bit more of the heel. I think once she comes up, she's obviously going to be ready. She was formerly known as Mariah May in AEW. She was already one of the top women stars there. So I think just NXT continuing to prepare wrestlers, young wrestlers, old wrestlers, anybody who comes into the WWE system. They get them ready. They play both parts of the heel and the face. It's developmental, but it's still getting a weekly showcase, and diehard fans are obviously still going to be watching and learning and knowing these people. So when they come up to the main roster, they're going to get pops. They're going to get crowd reactions. I mean, Ola Femi, he's so over right now. Trick Williams is so over right now. Javon Evans, who got the shirt on, is so over right now. That's why they're getting put into main event programs. Javon Evans in the Elimination Chamber. I think Trick Williams has a qualifying match next week, which I wouldn't be surprised if he won. So I think going into that, why don't we ask the next question about storylines that change the market? Do you think rookies like Javon Evans, like Obafemi, like I'll throw in Stephanie Vaquer or Julia, do you think the speculative buying of their market, do you think people are right to buy that high, or do you think that people are just spending way too much money and that if one storyline goes bad, it all goes down the drain?
I mean, again, I'm not here to give any kind of financial advice, but I do think I'm more from the goats of the world, and I kind of did that a little bit in the soccer world. The Messi, Ronaldo, I got behind me a Pele, Maradona signed jerseys. Like I just appreciate what it was, and before social media and before it is, I think it's unique where Messi, Ronaldo were still doing it at the ages they're doing it. I think there's a lot of parallels with the wrestling piece too, with I use John Cena 'cause my guy, but like he was able to span so many decades and get parents and kids to still see him play the way I think Messi has been able to do the same thing in soccer. I will tell you though, the Mbappe's and the Haalands is the Evan Zoba's kind of thing in the soccer thing. It's fun. I mean, that's where you can get a 5x, a 10x return in a short period of time, but it's risk reward. I will say though, if you get the right ones and the right colors, I think what hasn't really turned in the wrestling card market yet, which I think will, and I don't know when, a lot of the crossover, the soccer, the football, the basketball, and what kind of cards they look for. They look for golds, numbered out of 10, 101s, very scarce, things that can't be replaced. And some of them, Javon or Oba, some of the, they snuck into, Oba snuck into Flawless and has some cool gem cards, has some rookie. I use Tiffany Stratton, has a gold rookie logo shield, 101 Black Finite and snuck in the, I say snuck, but was able to be included in Panini. Those make a big deal, the type of thing. And now with Tops and all these cool things, super excited for Royalty and obviously Universe and everything else coming out, but like the WrestleMania debut patch or even the WrestleMania patch and then the Raw debut patch and stuff like that to match what's going on with MLB, Paul Skeen's debut and all that. I just think it's such a cool way to innovate. And those are what I think are going to draw, Logan Paul for sure. His WrestleMania patch is going to probably go crazy and draw a lot of attention. And I think that might draw some crossover attention. And obviously everybody likes to speculate. So who are the next ones? I will say though, very quickly, and you can probably give some examples of who you thought might have been buying up some cards cheaper to hopefully that it would get a pop, and then they get buried into tag team, they get buried into just not, getting pinned pretty quickly out of just a storyline, and next thing you know, those cards don't spike like you think they do, and that money could have been best spent somewhere else. So I think it's kind of just you have to balance the risk and reward.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I know you want me to give some examples. My biggest example on that is Julia. She came from Japan. She was this big star in NXT, immediately won the NXT title, turned heel. She honestly could have spent another year. That's what I'm saying. If they keep spending more time in NXT, learn the heel skills, might have gotten better English, which could help her with her main roster promos. Then they put her up. She wins a Women's United States Championship, but the poor booking of that division extremely hurts her. And then a gold vinyl 101 from Select, which is her best rookie card, PSA 10, bought for 10 grand. I don't know if someone would pay 3,500 right now for it. I mean, that's
Yeah.
why it's so speculative. That's why it's so high risk, high reward. But let's say if someone was like, watched NXT before and they say, oh, Ethan Page, when his best card, when his 101 inscription card or whatever comes out in Universe or Royalty or whatever, they pick that card to buy because they think that's the best Ethan Page card. When he goes up to the main roster and it's either handled well or handled bad, that's where you get the high risk, high reward from that.
I totally agree. And that's probably not going to change, but at least the ability to see them in the minors, the NXT versus like minor league baseball kind of thing or college basketball for basketball, that's always going to drive the market.
Yeah, 100%. I think the hype that Cooper Flag, I'll give an example. Cooper Flag was able to get in college basketball. I mean, it transferred to the NBA market so well, even though he's playing. I watched some basketball. I mean, he's playing fine, but Con Canuple's playing better basketball than him. I know this isn't a basketball podcast. I'm just saying it out there. But the hype he generates in NXT translates to the card market. If Obafemi has been 2v1ing the War Raiders and beating up Kit Wilson while Javon Evans is in the Elimination Chamber, the hype that Obafemi was able to get in the NXT is still translating more. His cards are worth more than Javon Evans, which just shows that NXT's hype, NXT's value, NXT's speculative buying does play an important factor in the card market.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll add to that is look at the road to WrestleMania, what Oba's cards are going to do if he continues to go that way, and then WrestleMania slash Super Bowl slash World Cup, whatever you want to call it. That's that's hype.
100%. So for each of the three that I mentioned, I'll say Cody Rhodes, Rhea Ripley, and the rookies. Do you think there are specific parts of the storyline that impacted the market, and do you think that it'll be sustainable?
Again, I think just Cody Rhodes and Rhea as an example, they've cemented themselves. I think whatever they do, as long as they continue just to be booked the right way are going to be their card market's just going to skyrocket because it's just supply and demand. The more and more people are going to get in, they're going to want them. There's only a limited number of the uh more scarce cards, the 1/1s out of tens, the inscription autos, the flawless, the new tops that are coming out that people are really going to go after. And then I think the rookies, it's going to be a crapshoot. One of them's probably going to really sky, and one of them's going to kind of fizzle out. Again, it's going to be storylines. I don't know how wrestling market's going to be the high flyer, Javon versus the big guy Oba. Use those two as an example. Are they going to like those? Or are they going to look for the heavy? I think it's sustainability. I think it's going to be if they can continue to build the character and evolve the character, then the prices will continue to rise.
Alrighty. So now we're gonna transition into our weekly show breakdown. So I know you don't watch much weekly wrestling. I'd say more you skim Raw, you can skim SmackDown, but you don't watch any other companies. I say I watch every Raw, every SmackDown. I watch AEW when I can. I watch TNA when I can. So how about you ask me the questions for the weekly
Yeah, no,
Raw?
what was your one big takeaway from Raw, your one big takeaway for SmackDown, and then relate that to the card market?
All right, yeah. So I think from Raw, if I were to give it a quick recap, I thought that overall in 2026, I think the show quality is obviously decreased. I went to the one in Cleveland, and I think the best part of the show is just letting the tag team division cook. They need to book it more. So you have the Usos, who are arguably the greatest tag team of all time, alongside the New Day. I mean, you just need to book them correctly. I mean, you're having Jey Uso come out, yeet the whole match, have a good match with Alpha Academy, in my opinion. But then after the match, just Jimmy Uso lose all of his credibility by saying, "Oh yeah, Jay's gonna make it to the Elimination Chamber," just completely taking away all the credit from the tag teams that are putting in the work, putting in the effort. That I think if they were booked correctly, I think that tag team division could be good. So that's my one takeaway, and I think my one piece of advice for whoever's booking the show. I think the best segment of this week's Monday Night Raw, in my opinion, was the Gunther, Javon Evans, Dominic Mysterio match, just because I thought it was built correctly as a match structure, with Gunther being the dominant heel, just over control on Javon and Dominic, the power bomb of Dom onto Javon. That was a great spot. Call back to WrestleMania 39. And then Dragon Lee interfering. Obviously, that's setting up a smaller feud to lead to the bigger feud of Rey Mysterio versus Gunther, which I predict happening at WrestleMania. So I think that was a good way to get Gunther out of it, because he doesn't need to take a pin in the Elimination Chamber. That ruins his character. And then between Dom and Javon, the stuff that Javon could do in the Elimination Chamber makes more sense to put him in there. You don't want your Intercontinental Champion taking a pin in the Elimination Chamber. And I think also Dom can interfere in the CM Punk Finn Balor match. So that's my Raw takeaway. I think who gained the most momentum, in my opinion, would probably be Javon Evans. And I would also say the Masked Man storyline. It's kind of getting old, but I don't know. Do you have any takes on who it could be?
Um, I don't know. For me, I think it's a little bit of a reach. I think unless there's a big swerve that I don't see, I just feel like sometimes they just try to go to the well one too many times, no pun intended. I don't know. It didn't, and again, I'm more of a casual fan. I'm watching it with you. I watch it when I can. Obviously, being a dad and have a job outside of this and everything else, I don't get to see it as much as you do. But it doesn't capture me the second time, third time around with the same type of thing, unless there's going to be a big payoff. I don't see. Let me ask you one last thing for this. What was the weakest moment in the last couple of weeks? Let's say from just using WWE.
Weakest moments. I mean, there's a lot you could talk about. I'm gonna throw it out there. I was not a fan of the ending of Cody Rhodes versus Jacob Fatu versus Sami Zayn on SmackDown. So you have Drew McIntyre. I'm assuming they're setting up Drew McIntyre versus Cody Rhodes as the WrestleMania main event. All roads are pointing to that. So I don't understand why you have Drew McIntyre take out everybody, and then just to have Cody Rhodes kick out, ridiculous, do his bullshit, win the match. I mean, I think I would rather them do a triple threat or a fatal four way. It makes more sense. You've run Cody versus Drew how many times? WrestlePalooza, Saturday Night's Main Event, SmackDown. That's already a trilogy. It doesn't need a fourth match unless it's inside Hell in a Cell, in my opinion. I think it would have been better to run, let's say, Cody versus uh, Drew versus Jacob at Elimination Chamber as a triple threat. Sami Zayn wins that match. And then I would have Randy Orton go and win the Elimination Chamber. And then it's just four-way brawl. You set up a fatal four-way crazy match. That's how you can actually get that match to main event WrestleMania Night 1. Because obviously, in my opinion, CM Punk versus Roman Reigns is the bigger match, will main event Night 2. But if you leave it as Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre, one-on-one, nothing added, I think there's a women's match or some sort of match that could main event Night 1 ahead of that. I don't think Drew McIntyre versus Cody Rhodes a fourth time is that good of a match to main event WrestleMania, in my opinion. Like, let's say they dropped the tag titles off of Rio. They had Rhea Ripley, Io Sky go one-on-one. That's a match I would want to see main event WrestleMania over it. Even Liv Morgan versus Stephanie Vaquer, I would want to see that main event WrestleMania over that. I think it's getting repetitive and it's getting boring. So I think Cody Rhodes lose momentum. Drew McIntyre lost momentum. He looked super silly at the end of the show, like trying to give Sammy the win. I mean, from a storyline perspective, I guess it makes sense, but it just makes Sami Zayn look completely silly and helpless.
Let me ask you one last thing before we transition. You were got first WrestleMania you ever got to go to in Las Vegas last year, and I know we had a blast and it was so much fun. And WWE World, I thought Tops did an outstanding job with that, and Fanatics and everything with that. That was amazing and it's such a cool experience. And then obviously Fanatics Fest we got to experience was they put on an A+ type of event. What's your thought about it going back to Las Vegas? What's your thought about, I won't go into, we can do a future episode about Saudi and everything like that, but like going back to the same place, doing 2 nights, trying to, create buzz. I heard recently they're lowering ticket prices and there's lots of other things going on, but like what's your personal thought as a super fan on going back to the same place for WrestleMania?
So I think that they should never go back to the same place twice, because the whole spectacle of WrestleMania is you go to a city, you get to experience new things. I'd never been to Las Vegas. I got to do so many cool things. Let's say if it went to New Orleans, which is initially planned, a lot of people haven't been to New Orleans. They would have got to experience the culture. They would have got to experience a lot of cool things that New Orleans has to offer, as well as going to WrestleMania. It's about meeting new people. It's about creating new experiences. But in my opinion, I think a lot of the people that we know who went to WrestleMania last year are just going to go again, and there's going to be nothing new. Let's say, and I think that loses a lot of the hype. Going back to your question about ticket prices and stuff like that, I think that if you do too much without lowering the ticket prices, basically doing the same show and getting higher in ticket prices, that's not going to pan out. So they obviously have to lower the ticket prices. It's been an issue with, I mean, even Monday Night Raw, with the get-in prices being $100 until the last minute. I mean, that's just insane that we had to wait to the last minute and have a chance of not getting tickets just to get valuable tickets. I think that TKO, I know they need to make their money back, but I think they need to make this a much more patient investment. I think that WWE has the legs to go on for a while. They just need to take their time. I know they want their money back now, but I think going more after the UFC, I think that could be a better investment for them. So I think overall they should lower ticket prices. I think WrestleMania should be going to a different host city every single year.
Okay. All right. Good take.
Alrighty, so now we're going to head into a card spotlight segment. So we're going to call it Spotlight of the Slab. So for this first episode, we're going to show you 2 cards from our collections, one kind of vintage, one modern. We're going to discuss why it matters, the comps on it, and whether we think it should be a buy, a hold, or a sell. And then whoever's watching this, you guys can send in your own cards and we can review them. We can give us our opinions on them. We're going to do one vintage, one modern. Depending how many we get, we could increase it. So starting off, what's our vintage card that we've picked out for you?
Which one would you start? I've got 2 in my hand. Tell me which one you want me to throw up first.
Let's go with The Undertaker.
All right, so this one is one of my favorites. Let's see if you can see it. It is a flawless, the first year, only year flawless. Star Swatch, anybody who's into basketball or any other Panini flawless, no Star Swatch carries its own swag. And I think the coolest thing about WWE, these are traditionally t-shirt relics for these, and then obviously Topps is gonna have some really cool new versions of the relics, but like this is just part of the Undertaker's face. As you can see, it's numbered with a on-card auto, and I think that's a big thing for coming from like I use soccer cards or any other ones where there's a lot of sticker autos. Yes, there is a lot there too, but having better access to wrestlers here. But this to me is a legend, a great picture, a great auto, a great relic. I think it just checks every single box, and this is going to be a PC for a
Uh, you're saying you would hold on to that for a while, and would you recommend to the total hobby that we should be holding on to star swatches as more releases come?
Absolutely. Just again, the flawless star swatch, it carries from other industries, other sports. This now is something that I think can really moon because there's just not a lot of them. This one is numbered to 15. So it's 1 of 1s out of 5s, out of 8, out of 15, out of 25, out of 10, actually. But there's just not that many relic. You call it relic, you call it patch, call it whatever you want. But like with WWE and with Flawless. So I'm a huge hold on Flawless and a super huge hold on GOAT Star Swatch auto on card, checks every box for.
Okay, and now will you show up the one modern card we have for you guys once it focuses? Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, dual auto superstar rivalries. I think it's called, numbered out of 25. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about why it matters. So one of the defining for my generation, one of the defining rivalries is Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins. That's how Cody Rhodes, he came back, he reinvented himself. His first match, Seth Rollins, they had a great trilogy. And this past year, they revisited that in a great way, explaining why Seth just can't beat Cody without cheating. I think that story was just absolutely amazing. So that's why it matters as a rivalry. It's going to be one of the rivalries that defines our generation. Why it matters is immaculate. Uh, that immaculate set has some amazing cards, with the dual autos being one of my favorites. I think Panini making that immaculate set alongside the rapid fire releases, knowing that they're losing the license, they just dump so many good cards. I just think that that card is super cool, being Cody Seth dual auto. Some market comps, it goes for around 5 to 650, but I think it could honestly become $1,000 card once the market continues to increase eventually. So my buy, hold, or sell opinion, I believe that eventually, once the market ends up increasing, it'll be past WrestleMania into SummerSlam next year. I would honestly hold on to it until the market ends up increasing as a whole. I would sell when people are selling the card for around $750. That's when I would sell.
I think the one thing on both of these, and I love that you think a Flawless is a vintage versus a 1985 All Star or whatever, but that's obviously the new age collectors. But what I love about these two is they're sealed, Flawless sealed, Panini sealed. For me, obviously we grade a lot, and everybody can say what they want about PSA or anybody else for grading. I love the idea that you don't have to worry about grading it. You just enjoy the card. You don't break the seal. You don't have to worry about what you enjoy it for the card itself, the numbering on it, the autos, the on card, and you don't have to worry about what grade it is. That doesn't really matter in these type of cards. They're such cool cards.
I 100% agree with you. Going on to that, one quick thing before we transition to our buy or sell segment. A quick question about WWE downtowns. I know that these have sparked a lot of controversy because of the fake ones. I was reading some articles trying to understand it all. What's your take on it?
I just think you have to be careful. I think, unfortunately, as WWE cards and just wrestling cards in general, AEW, everything like that, go up in value, people are going to want to counterfeit them. So again, that's the value of actually grading something to authenticate it and grade it. And then again, when they do come in sealed and they're not sealed, you're taking a risk. And so to me, traditionally being conservative, if they're sealed, I'll buy it. And if they're graded, I'll buy it. If they came sealed, obviously, if you're, some of the Flawless don't have the seal. They came through the box part of it, not the encased. But for those downtowns, I would just not take any risks. I would just either buy it sealed with, the panini piece on it, or buy it graded. I would not personally, um, just my own advice, I would not personally buy a raw that's not encased originally or graded.
All right, sounds good. So now we're gonna head into our buy or sell segment. It's gonna be a couple of quick rapid fire questions. I'm gonna ask you. We're gonna have a quick little debate on it, and then we'll move on. And we have 4 different buy or sells right now. Rhea Ripley as a long-term hold, like 5 to 10 years.
Um, I think I'm buying that. I think she is I use the word goat, but she's a goat, and her popularity is only gonna get bigger in the wrestling world and card markets only get bigger. I think she's a buy.
I'm gonna actually disagree with you on this one. I'm going to take it as a sell, and for the reason I'm taking it as a sell is I just think that Rhea Ripley being sort of the current generation, I'm selling once the market gets to a certain point, it's not exceeding that point. So even though she's gonna be one of the goats of the WWE Women's Division, I don't disagree with that. I just think once the market gets to a certain point, she's not going to be a long-term hold. She's a 1 to 2 year max hold. And
Okay.
alrighty, do you think right now is the perfect time to buy or sell and Roman Reigns' short-term spike from Royal Rumble to WrestleMania season?
I'm selling him. Again, I don't PC Roman. I love it. I love him what he does for wrestling and everything like that. I just think um there's other I just think in the card, just using cards, I think he's a sell. I think he's going to get a spike. I do think either a sell now or my prediction, and it's not original, but I think next year's WrestleMania, The Rock's going to come out, and it could be a Roman Rock in Saudi, and I think that could be a huge spike as well. But I don't think over the next couple of years after that, I don't think he's going to be gonna my money can go farther other places. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to buy on this one for the reasons you already said. The Rock Roman Reigns, that's the biggest match WWE's going to produce since Rock Austin, since Rock Hogan, in my opinion. I just think the hype for that match, being in Saudi Arabia and being the spectacle that they're going to put on, I just think that all eyes are going to be on it. All eyes are going to be on Roman. All eyes are going to be on Rock. Those two markets, even the dual flawless patch that they have, recently, I think I sold it for 500 just because someone thinks that that's going to happen. So they're speculative buying and going higher on that. I just think that the Roman Reigns, I think that's a 1 to 2 year hold, so it's higher than the short term spike, but it's not a complete long term hold like a Cena or a Rock.
Okay.
So next, buy or sell. Do you think it would be smart to grade modern base rookies? Think Cody rookie. Think Javon. Think Roman rookie. Think Rhea rookie, think Bianca Belair rookie, just to throw some names out.
Um, let's put it this way: I try and learn from my mistakes, and in basketball, football, baseball, especially soccer, I bought a ton of rookies base, sold a ton of rookie bases. Everybody was in the soccer market during COVID, pre-COVID, had bought or sold Kylian Mbappe 2018 Prism base. Those things went from $100 up to $1,500 PSA 10s. Back down to $100. There could be a spike. You could make money. I think long term, it's gonna get slaughtered with it. I just don't think grading modern base rookies, and I don't think the traditional collectors of wrestling as it sits right now care as much about grading as much as all those sports has just not been a thing. It's becoming a thing, and it will become a much bigger thing. But I think there'd be a lot better cards. From a supply and demand, and I would say definitely sell, grading modern base.
This one I'm going to agree with you. I think grading modern base rookies is just what the prices PSA are putting out now. It's just not smart long term, in my opinion. I just think that if you're doing it, I would stick to old school rookies, the Hogans, the Andres, the Rocks, and the Austins. Find those true rookies. I know it's going to be more expensive. If you can find them raw, make sure you're checking the condition before you buy it, or just buy it already graded, because I think those cards have a much more stable market than grading modern base rookies. That's more speculative. Alrighty, next and finally for the buy or sell, Do you believe in the WWE Topps royalty hype?
As much as I said sell on modern base rookies, I'm gonna put my neck out there and say buy, 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 Topps royalty hype. I absolutely love what Topps is doing with the WrestleMania patches. I love with what they're doing with the inscriptions, the autos, the fun inscriptions back and forth. And again, we've only seen some of them, but like I think being a John Cena guy, a John Cena one-time WrestleMania in a one-on-one with a really clean, nice design is awesome. I think the Logan Paul, I think the Cody, I think all those are going to be apps. I think personally they're going to set records for prices and move up the whole WWE or wrestling market, especially on the high end. And I'm just really talking more on the high end piece of it. I think the hype's real, and I think hopefully my little thesis is that it's going to draw on a lot of people like myself who are coming from soccer, coming from from basketball, coming from football, from baseball, and look at these Grail cards and be like, oh my God, they're so much cheaper than a Justin Herbert, whatever 101 or whatever it might be. Paul Skeen's $1 million card. I don't think any of these cards can get the $1 million yet, but I do think some of these were they're just very unique and great presentation and a beautiful looking card. I'm a buy on the royalty hype.
I'm completely with you. I only have one slight worry is that for Flawless, it's mostly all high-end names. For royalty, I know I've seen some cards who wouldn't be high necessarily names, so that's why I'm going to put out a PSA warning that buying into breaks, that the boxes are going to be obviously expensive, and with there only being a limited amount of cards because it's a high-end set, there's going to be some names like Adam Pearce, I think, is in there. Nick Aldis is in there. I mean, if you get one of those cards, that's why I'm putting a PSA out there. I think as much as like Flawless, you're going to get all the good names, all the good things. There's not really any losers in Flawless, in my opinion. I think there's going to be some losers in Topps Royalty, but I completely agree with you. I think what they're doing with the Raw debuts, SmackDown debuts, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, once they just drop everything, I think it's going to be absolutely perfect. I think it's going to move the market to a point where people like high-end hobby influencers are going to start talking about it. They're going to start dragging eyes. And I also want to ask you this question stemming from that. Do you think kids who are starting to get into mainstream wrestling are starting to get their dads see their kids getting into it and they're already a part of the market, but not the wrestling market? Do you think that moves more people into the wrestling market and it, as a total expands the wrestling market to a different standard?
Yeah, from an investment, I 1,000,000% agree. I saw it happen single-handedly over the last few years in soccer. A lot of the big name, call them influencers, call them people who create podcasts, whatever, who are money and didn't even know who Messi was, didn't even know who Pele or who Mbappe or Haaland was. I think the problem with, and I'll do counterpoint, the problem with soccer was it was very hard to see it on TV until Messi came to the United States. And even then it's on an Apple. There's paywalls for Peacock, for this, for that. It's very hard just to turn on TV and find a soccer game, let alone find a soccer game with Kylian Mbappe in it or Yamal in it, or it's a needle in a haystack. And then the opposite, I think, which is a great thing for wrestling is they took down the paywalls. I mean, outside of like Netflix, but there's, as a kid, I couldn't, 50 of us had to get in one room to get a pay-per-view to watch WrestleMania. And all the parents were collecting $10 from every other parent just to pay the bill. Now it's like, you're driving a soccer practice and you're watching literally on Netflix, or you're watching Saturday Night's Main Event up at B-Dubs or something with your friends. That just brings it into it. And now all of a sudden you're like, hey, we should go to WrestleMania with our kids. You go there, you go to Fanatics Fest, and all of a sudden your kid loves Cody Rhodes and he's out there signing autographs and doing entrance music ramp stuff. And the parents are like, that's really cool. Let me see some of those cards. And I'm like, oh, his best card is a $50,000 WrestleMania patch. I'm like, that would be $1 million somewhere else. My money goes a lot farther here, and my kid loves it, and I can do it with them. I think the accessibility of it, I truly think what Topps is doing with Fanatics Fest, with WWE World, with all these cool things that they're doing, putting specific sets tied to these events that are very scarce. And, the Cactus Jack WrestleMania, those boxes went through the roof, and that created some, really unique opportunities. For us, we went there, we were able to get the boxes. And if you want to sell your box, saw a lot of sons and dads selling their boxes and paying for their tickets to WrestleMania. It was just like a really cool, but that brought them in the cards. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, I could sell these cards and buy a belt, or I can buy another T-shirt or whatever. And I think that's when the parents, especially, moms and dads, seeing their kids share something with them and then knowing their money goes farther on the cards. I think it's definitely a positive.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just gonna leave with one last point about Topps. I know you're talking about Fanatics Fest and WWE World. I know a lot of people in the hobby, just from my general understanding, from looking at Instagram, from looking at some Patreons, listening to other podcasts. I know that people are unhappy with the way that Topps is churning out product. Um, a bit slower because they're trying to get on card, because they're trying to do it. I think that overall it's going to be one of the best decisions for the hobby, and this is going to be my reasoning. I think right now, because nobody has anything to rip, nobody has anything to do anything, they're waiting for the next release, but while they're waiting, they're buying singles. And people right now, they're being firm because there's nothing else to do. So they're buying singles at an inflated price. Everything's inflating on top of each other, overall expanding the wrestling card market, which I think Topps, once they release their good set, everything's just going to explode on each other and just absolutely make the wrestling market, make high-end influencers, oh, I need to buy this. I need to buy this right now. I need to buy this. This is as high as it's ever been. And I think the release of royalty is going to be that explosion point of when the market gets super high-end.
I agree.
Alrighty, let's each give one prediction for what's going to happen next week, heading into Elimination Chamber. Do you think CM Punk's going to retain, or will Finn Balor pull off the shock of the century?
My gut says I don't know how they don't let CM Punk retain. Just with what they're doing, but again, when you think you're going left, they spin you and go right. So I'm a little, I've got a guard up of like something crazy happening, but my gut is, there's gonna be some kind of schmaz or something fun, but it's gonna be, he's gonna retain. I just don't think there's gonna be some kind of turn.
I agree. I think CM Punk easily retains here. There's no chance in hell that Finn Balor fans will get that big title push, but what they will get is a Demon Finn Balor return at WrestleMania and an Intercontinental Championship win, because that schmaz that you're talking about, Dirty Dom, will be costing Finn Balor the match at Elimination Chamber. Next, we're going to talk about the men's Elimination Chamber. Who do you have winning?
I'm gonna shock you. I'm gonna say completely in left field, your boy Javon.
And why is that? I'm super interested because the winner goes to face Drew McIntyre, which is on the opposite brand.
Yeah, I just think there's I'm trying to be a little fun with it because it's your favorite guy, but I think there's gonna be just something in completely left field. I don't know if it's gonna be that, obviously, but I think there's just gonna be I think WWE is listening, and the creative are hearing people just being upset, kind of being it's stale, using the same masked man, doing this same, like you said, Cody. They're setting you up like this, and then they're gonna go like, and so I think there's just gonna be some huge turn for that. So I don't know what it's gonna be, but I think there's gonna be definitely a big swerve.
Okay, I have the general route of Cody Rhodes winning the Elimination Chamber, going on to beat Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania, hopefully inside Hell in a Cell, which would at least make the match, in my opinion, somewhat interesting without redoing it. What about the Women's Elimination Chamber, which in my opinion is the hardest match to predict of this card?
I'll let you go first because I have some thoughts. I want to hear yours.
Alrighty, so right now we have Rhea Ripley, Asuka, Tiffany Stratton, and trying to remember the last one. Doesn't really matter right now. I think it's going to be Tiffany Stratton. I think they're going to run Tiffy versus Jade, but I also think that they're going to run the number one contendership after that between Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss, with Charlotte Flair winning to go on and make it a triple threat at WrestleMania, where Alexa Bliss ends up costing Charlotte, turning, Jade retains, and then the storyline now becomes Charlotte versus Alexa. So I have Tiffany winning and a triple threat at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I had Tiffy time. That was we got a chance to meet her. She signed your Money in the Bank briefcase at Fanatics Fest, which was really cool. So, she was awesome in person. I'm a big fan, so that was my choice.
Okay, and then Becky Lynch versus AJ Lee for the Women's Intercontinental Championship.
I think the man, I'm a big Becky Lynch fan, and I think she's it's all Becky.
I think AJ Lee is gonna win this one with a big Becky meltdown happening after, setting up no disqualification match at WrestleMania, where Becky ends up winning it back, so AJ Lee can finally get out of the Becky Lynch vortex. They can finally go do other stuff. So AJ Lee, she comes back after 10 years. She needs to go have other matches with like the likes of Bayley, likes of Roxanne Perez. She can go on to face the Nikki Bella or the Bella twins, reignite a rivalry. I think she just needs to win, get her win. Becky Lynch wins back at WrestleMania, and then they completely separate.
Cool.
Alrighty, so I hope you guys have enjoyed listening to us yap for a good 52 minutes. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow us on all socials at Kayfabe, the letter N, Cardboard. Also, Sealy Wrestling Cards, that's my IG. Sealy Soccer Cards is his IG. This is Kayfabe and Cardboard, where storylines meet scarcity.
Thanks, everyone.